Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Painting with Harold. And tonight, I wanted to do a quick video on a topic that I have been asked about several times here lately. And it is a topic that I'm almost embarrassed to say I haven't thought about before, but it's what do beginners need to get started oil painting? And I have some supplies out right now that I think every beginner should have before starting oil painting. And it's not necessary to have everything that I've got here tonight, but the things I feel like you're going to need, uh, I will put emphasis on. And the things you don't really need, I'll just say it's a preference. Now, as I go over these items, I will move them over here to the side. That way, it'll create a little bit of room, and you can concentrate more on what I have at hand. Hi, Mava. How are you tonight? But like I said, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I have not thought about doing this video before now. And I think it's really important, and I think it's a really good question every time I'm asked. What do I need? And usually I'm right in the middle of doing another live, and it's such a long list of items that to answer would take, I wouldn't be sure I could cover everything. So I took the time today to handpick items, and like I said, we're just going to discuss them. Well, I'm here. I'm glad you're here, Mava. Thank you very much. All right. I guess the first thing we'll jump into is probably one of the most famous mediums since Bob Ross started painting. Bill painted too, and Bill taught Bob. But what's up, Steve? One of the most famous mediums that you will hear about is, let me get this in focus. I want to make sure you guys can see everything. Wrong knob. Hey, I understand, Steve. It's not a problem. I appreciate you being here tonight. Tonight, I'm not painting. I'm just going over some things that I've been asked by beginners, and I told them I would do a video. So I decided to do it live. That way, I don't have to worry about editing it. And anybody that goes to my channel after this can watch it. So it'll still be on my page. So either way, it'll be good. Okay, what I was saying. This is probably one of the most famous mediums you'll hear about in wet on wet, and it is the liquid white. Now, liquid white is actually a paint. It is a thinned down white paint, a very thinned down white paint, and it's liquid form. You can see it says it right here on the jar, liquid white oil paint. Now, it has so many different names. You got liquid white, you've got magic white, you've got amazing white, liquid first coat, just any name that you can think of that describes liquid white is this right here. And it is a mixture of linseed oil, which now with linseed oil, it's one of these items that you do not have to have, but it is a medium that can be used to thin down paint. We'll discuss it again here in a minute. If you're going to do the wet on wet technique, Liquid white is almost an item you have to have. It makes life so much easier. When you apply it to the canvas in the right amount, it lets the paint blend right on the canvas, and it makes it so easy to apply paint and to move paint on the canvas. But you do want to use it in the right amount. Now, I do have videos posted that you can go watch that will show you how to apply this to a canvas. So that's one item that I would consider a must-have. Now, another medium you hear a lot of people talk about is liquid clear. Now, liquid clear is not the same as liquid white. It does do some of the same things liquid white does. However, it does not change your colors. It keeps your colors true. Now, liquid clear is not just linseed oil or some other oil. It has a type of varnish in it. And your paint will dry shinier. And this stuff right here is so slick that it does not take very much at all when you're applying it to the canvas. In fact, you almost have to just scrub it in to get it to work. It's used a lot in black canvas paintings. So you can apply transparent colors and then come over them with white. And when you do that, it makes the painting vivid. I mean, it just gives it so much life. But the thing of it is, you can use it on white canvases as well. And it'll keep all your colors that you use in that painting that color. It won't fade them out. But now it is slick enough that it will allow you to blend on the canvas, and it will allow you to move paint on the canvas. But it has a violent reaction to thinner. So when you're using liquid clear, keep that in mind, that you do have to use very, very, very small amount of it. A can of this will last you for a long time. My original can, and I've been painting out of it a little over 3 years now, and I've still got some of it left. This is a brand new bottle I haven't opened yet. So liquid clear is a must-have item if you don't want your colors changing and you want to use black canvases. Then I would say it is a must. Okay, another liquid that you don't hear a lot about, but is very nice to have, is liquid black. Liquid black is just like liquid white, except it's black. Now, with liquid black, you can use it to put on your canvas, and this is not to make the whole canvas black like gesso, which we will describe and talk about here in a few minutes. But liquid black is to fill in dark areas when you're going to paint and it stays wet, unlike gesso, which dries. Liquid black will stay wet, and it will allow you to paint over it and move paint around just like liquid black does, but you won't get the same effect with this. You can use transparent colors, but you will have to come back with a lighter color to make them show up. I've done 1 or 2 paintings with liquid black. I think I'll do a couple more so people can see how it does work on the canvas. This is more or less a preference item if you ever wanted to use it for those type paintings. It's not a must-have to begin oil painting. So there again, liquid black is not a necessity. Okay, one thing you must have to paint is paint. Now, I am a Bob Ross instructor, so therefore 99.9% of everything I use is Bob Ross. This is a 200 milliliter tube of Bob Ross paint. It is a metal tube. They're shipped in a box, and the box looks just like this. It has a label that tells you what it is, and I took it out of the box so you could actually see the actual tube. And the reason I use Bob Ross paints is they were made for the technique, for the wet on wet technique. They're specially formulated to use for the wet on wet technique. Bob Ross has, there's either 13 or 14 colors in the complete set of paints. I know all of them, but I won't get into what every one of them is right now in the video. But every one of them is still available. Now, I highly recommend Bob Ross products because, like I said, not only am I a Bob Ross instructor, I use these products and they work well on the wet on wet technique because that's what they were designed for. Now, you do not have to buy a 200 milliliter tube. They are available in 37 milliliter tubes as well. But paint is a must-have. Bob Ross paint is just my recommendation. If you would rather use another brand, that is entirely up to you. Okay. Linseed oil. Linseed oil is not a necessity to have before you start oil painting. Why do I have linseed oil? Because if I ever run out of liquid white, which I hope I don't, I can mix a little together using this and some titanium white paint, and it will get me through. Also, if you're ever in a position where you need to thin down some paint and you cannot and absolutely cannot use liquid clear at the time because you don't have any, or thinner because you don't want it to mess your painting up, this will thin down paint also. If you're doing any type of realism painting, you can use this as a medium. And mediums, when you get into them, there are so many. There's some that extend the life of the paint to let it dry slower. There's some to just speed it up the process to make it dry quicker. Linseed oil will just break the paint down for you. This is in fact the Gambling brand, and it's just refined linseed oil. And this they consider to be a drying oil. So keep that in mind. It's not a necessity. It's just something good that's good to have around. Paper towels. I do not use a very expensive paper towel. However, when you use a less expensive paper towel, you may get problems with lint and the naps that paper towels can cause. I use them for a lot of different things. I use them for my brushes. When I wash them, I use it to dry off the brush like so. When I'm painting, I build up a paint. I'll come in and tap my brushes on to dry the paint. But I always look at my bristles to make sure I don't have paper towel naps in it, because these will cause you some if you're too aggressive with it. I also use these to wipe my canvas down if I need to. And these are, again, just a very expensive paper towel. This particular type is not mandatory to have, but I would highly recommend having some kind of paper towel. A lot of painters today are using the blue shop towel. I have not, but what I'm hearing about them is they're amazing. So that's preference. I would say a necessity, but preference. All right. Baby wipes. One of my best friends. These are just an inexpensive baby wipe that I picked up at Sam's. I use these for a variety of things. I use them for cleaning up paint. I use them for cleaning them up me. I use them for wiping down brushes, the handles, just anything that you need a quick handy wipe, baby wipes. I'm going to call them almost a necessity. You can use other things if you want to, but for me, I haven't found anything yet that's as handy as baby wipes for quick, easy cleanup. So I always keep some of them handy. Okay, the thinner bucket. This is the bucket that's used when you're painting to clean your brushes. Now, I have a uh, 1 gallon Ziploc bag inserted into my Bob Ross bucket here. In the bottom of this bucket is a screen identical to this one. It is a metal screen with a coating over it that fits down in the bottom of your bucket, just like so. And when you fill it up with thinner, you put about that much thinner above it, maybe an inch. An inch may be too much, but not much. You taking your brush and dipping it down into the thinner, and your brush should have about that much paint on it or so, if you did quite a good painting. And when you put that in there, this thing is sitting in that bucket, and you're dragging your brush across it, and you can do little circles or whatever you need to do back and forth to get that brush clean. But what it does, since it's open on the top, it lets all of the paint particles fall to the bottom of this bucket. Now, one thing I do after I do that and get it out, I have a trash can over here that's sitting beside me, and this is a brush beater rack. Now let me move this to the side where you can see it. That brush beater rack sits down in the bottom of my trash can. And once I'm done cleaning my brush, this brush beater rack, you come over to it and you run the bristles across the top of it just like so. And all of the paint and extra thinner goes in the bottom of your wastebasket. And I do have mine lined with 2 garbage bags in case one leaks. And it slings the thinner as you're going back and forth along the walls of the trash can, because the trash can's just high above the well, you can't see my hand. The trash can's above the rack, so you don't have paint slinging all over the room like when Bob used to beat the devil out of his on his easel. These are not a necessity to oil paint. I will say this: they make oil painting a whole lot easier. For what they cost, I would highly recommend them. They're expensive. I mean, they're inexpensive for what they do. And now you can make substitutes. You can get a coffee can and put something in the bottom of it that you can rub your brush on. I'm not saying that there are not alternatives out there. If you're a creative person, you can come up with all sorts of other ideas. But these ideas right here are pretty much a done option. Once you have these, they last forever, I guess, until they just, well, I don't know what would happen to them, really, to tell you the truth. This one I've had 5 years. The bucket, the same. This is a new beater rack. I don't need it. I have one that I have had ever since I bought that one. I bought an extra one. In fact, I bought a couple extra ones because I was teaching classes at the time. So, and these are coated too, by the way. They have like a, I don't know if it's not really a rubber. I don't guess it's I don't really know what that is that it's coated in. It could be just painted, but it's got a coating on it. And these will last you forever also. So it's not something you have to buy every year. And I want to say these are less than $10. There again, not a necessity, but I highly recommend them for what they are. Does that mean you can't come up with something creative? No, it does not. It's just what I recommend. All right. Next, I'm going to get to palettes. Now, if you're a beginner, I see no sense in running out spending $30 or $40 on a pallet. You can buy some cheaper pallets, but you want a pallet that's big enough that will let you work on it. You can go out and buy the little cheap ones, the little small round ones, but they make working your paint so hard. If you want something big, something decent, this is a disposable pallet. They sell this at Hobby Lobby. It shows a price tag on it of $10.99. Master's Touch stuff goes on sale every other week at Hobby Lobby. You can catch these for $5.50. It's half off. Sometimes it's 40% off. Either way, you can get these, and there's 40 sheets of 16 by 12. 16 this way, 12 that way. 40 sheets of this inside one book. You can put your paint out. It's a gray tint, so it shows true color. If you got a alizarin crimson, it'll show it as alizarin crimson. It shows you whites as white. It shows true colors as to whatever you got on your palette at the time. Once you're done painting, if you have extra paint left over, you can take and remove this sheet. It's binded. You can rip it out. You can take paint from it if you've got some left over. And if you have a storage method of putting it in a refrigerator or whatever, store it that way. If not, if you're somebody that paints quite often and you're going to do another painting right after or the next day, you can take, after you tore this one out, take that paint and put directly back onto your canvas. On your palette, however you want to lay your paint out. That's entirely up to you. It's better than going out spending a lot of money on a palette that's going to cost you, let's say, $25 plus, because palettes are one of those things that the nicer it is, the more it costs. I would recommend starting out with something like this right here. It's all you would need as a beginner. I actually use them now. I normally have a sheet of Coroplast, like what I've got on top of my desk here. And the thing that with the Coroplast that I've found is when you're doing a lot of scraping, if you let paint dry on it, which I have done in the past, mine is over here. I got it out of the way tonight so I could have top of my desk. But if you treat this right and don't let paint dry on it to where you got to come in there and do a lot of scraping on it, these last a great long time, and it's so cheap. My wife works at a place, they make street name signs, and they make the election signs, and the little signs that people put in the yard to display different items, like for sale, garage sale, yard sale. That's what this stuff is made out of. It's Coroplast. I have them cut me a sheet that is 16 by 16, and that way it sits between the legs of my easel, so I can push it back when I'm done and pull it out when I need to. It is also a very cheap alternative to going out buying an expensive palette. I do have a big Bob Ross palette over there that I want to say was like $30-something. It's very nice when you're teaching the class and it's something you got to hold. I do love my Bob Ross palette. It's big and roomy and tough. It's a tough plastic. But a palette is very, very well needed. This is something you're going to need. This particular one is just a recommendation. Either the ones you want is your choice. Hey, Rod, how are you? just going over some basic stuff that beginners need to paint with tonight. Not actually painting tonight, but this is something that I've been needing to do. I've been asked about it a lot. All right, move this over a little. Okay, now we're going to get into the gessos. This is a white gesso. This gesso is acrylic gesso. This gesso is also acrylic gesso. Are they just like acrylic paint? No. They are just a tad bit thicker than a regular paint. Will acrylic paint work? Yes. A lot of times if you don't have gesso, but you do have white paint, acrylic paint, you can coat your canvas with it and maybe put on 2 coats of it, and it will do what a coat of this will do. But a lot of times if it's a raw canvas, you can use 2 or 3 coats of this. You can mix the 2 together and get a gray gesso. But gesso is a primer. It's basically all it is. It primes your your canvas, and gets your canvas ready to paint on. It fills up a bunch of the teeth that are in the canvas, and it kind of gives you a base to either apply other mediums or in traditional style painting just to start painting on. But it is just a primer for your canvas. The black gesso is also a primer for your canvas, but it will allow you to paint a canvas entirely black for doing black canvas paintings. You've all seen black canvas paintings if you've watched Bob Ross paint at all, or Bill Alexander, or me, or 99% of the painters on YouTube or TikTok or anywhere else. Black canvas paintings are very popular. They're very pretty. The colors are, they're just gorgeous on a black canvas. So you can use a black gesso. This is the Bob Ross gesso. This is Hobby Lobby's brand. Price-wise, they're about the same. So I can't recommend one over the other. However, I do like the Bob Ross black gesso. I've used it since I started painting, and I'm going to stick with it. So I will move those to the side. Now I want to say that acrylic white gesso is not necessary on every canvas. If you've got a cheaper canvas that's not gessoed enough, is when you'd want to use this. If you go out and buy expensive canvases, they should have plenty of gesso on them. So this is not something you're buying for every canvas you paint on. Some are already double gessoed. This is for those that are not. So keep that in mind as well. Yeah, what Rob just said right there. All right, I'll set this to the side for a second. Now, this is a conditioner. It's a brush conditioner, and it's also a cleaner. What I like about this is these are natural hair bristle brushes. We're going to talk about these in more detail here in a minute. But they're natural hog hair bristle brushes, which means you can't just wash them with any old thing. It's highly recommended you don't get the bristles wet with water. This will, once a brush is washed with thinner and has paint dry in it, thinner dry in it, your bristles will start getting kind of brittle. And when that happens, you can take this conditioner and soak these. Just take a little on your fingers and just work it in real good through your entire bristles, and set it in I actually have a coffee creamer container that I just set mine in and just let them sit until the next time I get ready to paint with them. Some of them have sit for a couple of days with this in them. And all it does is it will help clean the dry paint out, not an excessive amount, but small amounts. And it just conditions your bristles back to a more soft, natural feel. Uh, this brush, I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, but it's actually fraying a little on the sides. So when I condition it, what I will do is I will take me a paper towel after I've dried it off, and I do this to a lot of my brushes. After I've got it good and clean and got it dried off with a paper towel again, I take and lay it down, and I come to my ferrule, the bottom of a ferrule, and I will wrap it just like so. And then I take and flip it over, just like that. And then I continue to wrap it up, just like so. And then I take a small rubber band, and I don't apply a lot of pressure on the rubber band, but I put enough on it that it keeps pressure on my paper towel enough to keep my bristles in form and shape. And when I come back to use them in a day or two, and you take them out, they're just so, they're almost back to the day you bought them feel and shape. And then you can just softly move them around and break them back out. And they get just as fluffy as they ever were. And you're ready to paint with them again. And if you take care of these brushes will last you a while, a long time. So paint brushes are definitely a necessity. This, I would almost say it's a necessity if you don't have any other way of conditioning your brushes. I highly recommend doing it. It saves the life of the brushes. It really does. I won't say it's a necessity. This particular brand, the Bob Ross brand, I use it. There again, it's something I highly recommend. Okay. Brushes. Well, of course, brushes is something you're going to have. So let's go over to the Bob Ross brush line. All right. We're going to start out with one of the most famous brushes in the Bob Ross brush line, and that's the 2-inch landscape brush. The brush that looks like a brush you use to paint your house. This brush is used for so many different things, and there's just numbers of uses for this brush. It is highly recommended that you have a 2-inch brush in your arsenal. I highly recommend the Bob Ross brushes. They are a natural bristle brush. They're good quality brushes. Now, there was a little spurt there to where Bob was having problems. Not Bob, but the corporation was having issues with a new company that they tried, and the brushes just did not work out. Painters let the company know, and the brushes are so much better quality right now. These brushes were designed for the technique. They work for the technique. I would highly recommend a 2-inch brush in your Bob Ross wet on wet technique. Okay. We'll set these to the side for a minute. Fan brushes. We have a number 3 fan brush. There again, natural bristle. There again, Bob Ross brand. We have number 6. Same thing. These brushes are used for so many different things. Trees, grass, blending. They just have a number of uses. One of my favorite brushes, the half oval. It has the black handle to separate it from using the 1-inch. Instead, it's just to separate it to let you know that this is, in fact, the half oval brush. This brush is absolutely amazing for trees and bushes and different foliage. It's one of my favorite brushes to use for it, in fact. Highly recommend one of these if you're going to be doing any painting of trees or bushes. Okay. The filbert brush. The filbert brush is used a lot for, you can use it for a whole bunch of different things. I use it a lot for when I'm getting ready to draw an item that I want to sketch out. It's real good for that. It's real good for making trees. It's good for highlighting evergreens. It's also great for making rocks. It has a lot of good uses. I would also recommend this as a must-have brush. The two oval round brushes, not oval, the two round brushes are called, well, they call it a foliage brush, but it's the round. This is the big round brush. This is the smaller one. I actually refer to this one as the half round. Now, both of those brushes are awesome. I mean, awesome for painting any type of bushes or trees that you want to put distinctive leaves on and make them look far away. I don't think there's a better brush made for that process than these. These do such a great job on putting leaves on trees that you want to look far off in the distance. They also do great on up close stuff if you load them right. And loading a brush is all in the technique. And that's what my videos try to show you, is the different loading techniques. Now, you have a script liner brush. I will be honest with you. This is not my favorite script liner brush. I like a script liner brush that has a longer bristle. If you can use one of these, then they're excellent. And some people use these more and better than I do. I'm just not real good with the Bob Ross script liner brush. And that's just my technique and the way I use it. Mine, I do better with one that has longer hair. This is a Wilson Bickford. And being a Bob Ross instructor, I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. This one is probably one of my favorites that I've found so far. And I've used a lot of script liner brushes. I love this one. It was inexpensive. Now, when it came in, it had a lot of bristle in it. What I did was I took and cut it in half. I pulled half of it to the side, and I took a pair of scissors and I cut half of it out. And when I did that, it made this, for me, the perfect script liner brush. And that's purely a preference thing. I mean, it made it perfect for me. So I don't know what would be perfect for you. That's something you'd have to experiment with. But a script liner brush is used for so many things, I would call it a necessity. Okay? The famous little 1-inch brush. The 1-inch brush, there again, it's used for so many things in the wet on wet technique that it is definitely a recommended necessity brush. I mean, it makes bushes, it makes trees, it makes grass, it blends, it makes skies, it makes water, it does it all. It definitely does it better in tighter areas. So, therefore, very highly recommended. I would call this a necessity to have. It is natural bristle, and there again, I recommend the Bob Ross. The palette knives. These things are absolutely amazing. The small palette knife and the large palette knife. These things have such a good shape on them that they make snow on the mountain breaking easy. Building cabins they make easy. It has angles built in it for you already. It has a little edge. It has a front and back edge. I mean, it's just a tremendous, well-built, good product. I mean, I love them. I love both of them. Can you break the blades out of them? Yes. Have I ever done it? Yes. But that was my fault. I applied pressure in the wrong way and I applied too much. So I can't complain about the design one little bit. Highly, highly recommend you have, I would say, both palette knives in your arsenal. So I would say these are definitely required to have as a beginner painter. Okay, we talked about one a minute ago, and that was paint. All right, let me get this out here so I can show you what we're fixing to do. Now, this next tool I'm fixing to show you, is it a necessity or is it required for you to have it? No, it is not. Would I recommend you have one? Yes, I would. Let me show you why. This tube, under normal circumstances, I would say throw it away. You got your use out of it. It's been folded. It's been squeezed. Anything and everything you can think of. But this little tool is a tube ringer. This little tool is amazing. And what you do is you take a tube that you think is done and out of paint, and you sit it down inside your ringer just like so, and just squeeze your handle together and turn. Now I want you to watch what happens here. When you go to squeezing, watch the top of that tube. Look at there. Look what's coming out. Paint. And if I stop right there and take that little bit of paint off and put this cap back on, there is still enough yellow ochre in this tube for me to start back right here. Next time I get ready to start squeezing paint out of it, I can squeeze enough paint out of this leftover tube to get one or two more paintings, depending on how much of it I'm going to need to use. Would I say it is a necessity to have one of those? No, I won't call it a necessity. Would I highly recommend it? Yes, I would. It is an item that you can find on Amazon. Bob Ross Incorporated has them. And it won't be but another week or so, probably 2 weeks, I'll be able to get any of this stuff you've seen today. I'm going to be able to offer links to it to where you can go and click on a link and go to what I recommend and what I use. And everything I use or what I recommend is not what I'm saying you got to have. I'm just saying this stuff that works for me. Okay. Now, one of the things you're also going to need is a canvas. Okay. This is a 16 by 20 inch canvas that comes from Hobby Lobby. They come in a pack of 5, and they were on sale this past weekend for $12.99 for 5 of them. I use these quite a bit. I also have some more expensive canvases, like the gallery wraps and the real fine. I use those for paintings that I'm doing for people that want to pay a lot of money for a painting. These I use, I'm going to say, every time you see me paint on YouTube or TikTok, this is what I've used. I'm using one of these 16 by 20 economy style canvases. Now what I do is I will take my hand and I will run over that canvas before I use it. And if I feel any really bad rough spots, I have a real light sandpaper. I should have brought it over here with me. But it is a high grit. I mean, very high. It's real fine, almost like nothing really. and I'll just take and I will lightly rub over it until I get it a little smoother. And then I'll take me another coat of gesso and put on it. These are already double gessoed. This painting, this canvas is good to go. I would immediately start painting on this. I'm gonna say out of 10 packs that I buy, I may have 4 canvases that I'll have to go back and work on. For the main part, the majority of them are already ready to paint on. So that's just something you're gonna have to have a canvas. Preference, highly whatever you want is your preference. Uh, gotta have, yes. You got to have a canvas. There's no way you're gonna paint without one. Now, if you want to use the canvas boards, keep in mind they're gonna soak up liquid white and liquid clear like a sponge. Rod said, good tip. Is that after using conditioner still? Okay, Rod, I'm confused. What do you mean? What exactly is your question? Is that after using conditioner still in it? Oh, that's after cleaning. I don't do it with the conditioner in it. That's after cleaning it. If you do it with the conditioner in it, then all you're gonna do is and come right back and wash the shape out of it. So I'll wait until after I get the conditioner out. Yeah, that's why I do it, just to keep the shape. I don't really like starting out with a real bushy brush and trying to put enough paint in to keep it stuck together. I like for it to already have some form to it when I start painting. But that's preference, That's merely a preference. Well, I do like a conditioned brush, so that's entirely up to you, whatever you want to do. But I would recommend it. All right, now one more thing that you're going to need, and this is not something that I suggest you have, it's something you're going to have, is an easel. Do you have to have this particular easel? No. This easel, I recommend it because, first of all, it's easy to operate, it's easy to assemble, it's not expensive, it holds 16 by 20 canvases pretty easy, and it holds them in pretty good. The one thing I would recommend is if you buy one of these, keep in mind that once you get a canvas in here and get it locked down, it will slide. Now, to prevent that, if you've got a wooden desk that you can come in here and drill a couple holes and put some screws in to hold it in place, maybe one up front and one in the back. They don't have to be real long screws, just where they go through this and grab the desk just a little. Uh, if it's a wooden desk you can drill into, then I would highly recommend putting it on your desk that way, and it'll keep it in place. You can still fold it down, and you can still raise it back up. The level you want it when you paint is entirely up to you. I like for my canvases to be almost at a 90-degree angle. So, but this has a slider on the back that you can slide it down depending on your canvas size. Once you get to that point right there, if that's not enough, you can take the nut completely off the back. It's just a little wing nut. Bring it above the bar, put the wing nut back on, and it will allow you to go all the way up to here. Width wise is entirely up to you. How far over? How much room do you need? Uh, Once you get one of these and you cannot drill it into a desktop to keep it sturdy, uh, you can find something else that you can set back here that's pretty heavy to weight it down. It don't take a whole lot of weight because these have a little skid proof deal on the foot or on the bottom. So they kind of stay in place. Uh, you can work on them fairly easy. Like this is kind of loose right now, but to tighten it, it's got a screw in the bottom right here, Phillips screw. You can tighten that up. Uh, they're pretty durable. They're inexpensive. When you catch them on sale, they're like $20, $22, something like that. They're not very expensive at all. They come from Hobby Lobby as well. And these are the easels that I use when I'm teaching classes. I will set these out for every student and set a canvas on it and have it ready for them. So an easel is something you will definitely have to have. And one of the things I didn't say you're going to have, but you will, and that is the willingness to be patient and practice. You're going to have to practice. You're going to have to be patient. You're not going to sit down at your first painting unless you are just very gifted and God has gave you a talent that you're unaware of, and your first painting turned out to be magnificent. With that being said, artists are our own worst critics. So you have to encourage yourself, and you're going to get encouragement from other painters. But the thing of it is, you cannot keep judging yourself and telling yourself you can't do it. If you get into that can't do it attitude, then pretty much no instructor is going to be able to help you overcome that negative, that attitude. So, hey, Mick, how you tonight? So you're going to have a willingness to learn. You're going to have the desire to paint. You're going to have patience. You're going to have all these products that I showed you tonight. And find somebody that's already painting. Find in your area, see if you can find an instructor that's already painting or just somebody else that's already painting. One of the things I've found is the majority of painters are more than willing to help you. So get with somebody and just do what you can. It's for fun. It's for relaxation. I would not recommend it as a medical cure for any type of depression or anything. I have seen some people say that it cured their depression. I'm not going to tell you it will. I would say it's more a release from your real world. It just lets you get into your own little world and create and be creative and relaxing. If it gets stressful, quit where you're at, walk away for a little bit and come back. But do not develop a cannot do it attitude. I've seen children that can do this. So I know that anybody can do it. And I mean, just stick with it if it's what you want to do. Don't start out with the most expensive of everything in case it's just something you fall apart on and say, no more. I do not want to do this anymore. So use oil painting as a means of happiness, a means of therapy, a means of fun, creativeness. Use your imagination. It's using your brain muscle. And you can develop your own technique, your own style, and have just some of the most fun you'll ever have. And that is what I would say is needed for everybody that wants to begin oil painting as a beginner. The items you've seen tonight are items I would say you need. Now, is there any questions on anything I said or mentioned tonight? If you're seeing this after the live, feel free to comment any questions you have. As of right now, there's only 6 people in here, so I don't know if we'll have any questions or not. But if we do, feel free to ask. I'll stay around a few minutes and we'll see what happens. Yeah, Rod, you're right. It does not cure, but it is therapeutic. And yeah, it does help. I'll agree, it does help. I did. This one right here. That is the brush beater rack that I showed tonight. Sits in the bottom of a waste pack, just a garbage can. I'll say it that way. Well, Rod, that is great. I'm glad to hear that, man. Painting is definitely therapeutic. I mean, it is. But I do know that clinical depression a lot of times requires drugs because of the serotonin levels in the brain. So uh, painting's not going to put those back right. But it does give you an escape. So being therapeutic, yeah, I definitely agree. Mick, what you up to tonight? Or did Mick leave? I guess Mick left. I hope so, Rod. Like I said, I've been asked several times. I got asked in TikTok the other night 3 or 4 times, and then I've been asked here on YouTube a few times. What all do I need? And it's such a long list that I didn't want to stop in the middle of a paint to answer the question. So I thought, why not just do a little video to kind of show people what they're going to need to get started? And I hope it really helps people that don't know. I really hope it does. Because as of right now, I'm looking at almost an hour, a few seconds away from an hour long video. So that would have been a long answer to try to answer without sounding short, and explaining stuff. However, this was more hands-on also. I was able to show the actual product. And I think that that's also helpful for somebody to be able to visually see it. Because there's some things like, a place to keep all your brushes, a place to keep all your paint, a place to keep everything and store it, a place to put your palette, your canvases to dry if you paint. That kind of stuff is, that's stuff you're going to learn along the way, stuff that you got to have, but that's not stuff you got to have to get started. That's kind of stuff you're going to have after you got started painting a few paintings. All right. I didn't think it'd take quite an hour to do this video. I guess I was wrong. Well, I'm kind of sad that. Oh, thank you, man. I actually went over 800 today. I think I'm at 811. I think is what it was when I looked at it this morning. Unless I've lost any or gained any. This morning when I woke up, around 10 o'clock, I think it was when I looked at it. I won't say when I woke up, but I think I looked at all of it around 10 o'clock this morning. It was at 811, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. So now I'm down to 180 something to go, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. Yeah, 189 in the next 2 months. I hope I can get them. I really do. Last month I got 90, 91 or 92. 1 month I got 98. So if I have those kind of months, yeah, I'll be able to get them. But it's averaging out right now to 3 subscribers a day is what I got to have to make it by my deadline. So tomorrow when I go to bed, I need 814. I like to have it tonight, but you can only do what you can do. Oh man, well I appreciate that. Thank you. I didn't know you could do that. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you did that, Rod. I really appreciate it. Maybe somebody will click on it. I don't know either. I really can't say. But I appreciate you doing that. Yeah, I'm fixing to go ahead and sign off. I really wished I could have got more viewers on this, but the good thing about doing it on YouTube is it'll stay on YouTube now, and people can watch it just like it was live. So if anybody asks now, I can at least tell them it's on my YouTube channel. So we got it done, and hopefully it helps somebody. So thank y'all for being here. Remember, I love you guys. God loves you more. With that said, I hope this video helps you. If you're watching it after the live, I hope it helps you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching me. Thank you for supporting me. Hit the subscribe button if you want. It really helps a lot. And thank all you guys. And I will see you next time right here on Painting with Harold. Have a great night.